10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the DT Dream Team podcast. You're here with Jay and Banksy. G'day, Banksy. How you travelling?
I'm travelling better than you, boy.
Oh, mate, I know, and you're going to enjoy rubbing this one in over the show. And, mate, let me get in and say well done before you tick me off a little bit later in the show and I start having little jabs at you. Well done. Your team definitely outperformed mine. You've frogged me in the rankings. I think you're, 11 places ahead of me? Is that right?
I am 13 points ahead of you,
13 points.
and I am 32 overall rankings ahead of you.
Oof.
I'm currently ranked at 192nd for those wondering, so it's still a very tight race.
Well done, mate. Well done. And, of course, I dropped from 118th down to 224th with my dismal score of 787. And what a week. Jeez, it was the week we've all been waiting for, I guess, because there is one every year, whether it be injuries or just players phoning it in or sides getting thrashed and players getting rested and that sort of thing. It came. It was round 10.
Yep, it was. It would look so promising on Friday night. Did all these good scores, especially for non-Farah owners. It was brilliant.
Yes, I know that the Farah or non-Farah owners, I should say, were celebrating, and I saw more than one post saying, "Is this the day we've all been waiting for, where Farah finally fails and phones it in?" And look, he was unfortunately in a side that was well and truly beaten by South Sydney. I think the final margin was 54-10 or something, wasn't it?
54-10 was the score, but I'm pretty sure you were trying to fit in another F word in there too, weren't you, for Farah?
As a Farah owner, I'm sure there were more than a few F words that were uttered on Friday night. I was actually at the Broncos Titans game, and of course, there was a little bit of back and forth about the Titans' discipline and of course the penalty count and that on Friday. And walking away from that game, I was gutted, having been at Suncorp Stadium. And then I've looked at my phone and checked the little NRL scores app that I have on my phone, and I've seen the South Sydney Tigers scoreline, and I've thought to myself, at least I'm not a West Tigers supporter. That'd be even harder to take tonight. And Then as the weekend progressed, and I made this comment on the True Titans fan page, as the weekend progressed, we were having the breakdown and the discussion of what went wrong and what did the Titans do wrong and how they could improve, and were the refs really that bad, and we worked out that, look, really in our opinion there was probably the penalty count should have been 7-5 at halftime instead of 10-2, which, to be honest with you, any fan of any side can go into the end of a half on a lopsided penalty count like that and can probably find 3 penalties that weren't awarded to his side and 3 penalties that were awarded against his side that shouldn't have been, in all fairness. So we've all had this discussion and everything like that, and it's gone on for quite some time. And then, of course, we've brought up the thank God we're not West Tigers fans. Comes into, I think it was Saturday or maybe it was Sunday afternoon, and I've made the comment, Friday night, Saturday morning, we've all agreed that we're glad we're not West Tigers fans. Well, right now, West Tigers fans are looking across the ditch at their Kiwi cousins and going, thank God we're not Warriors fans. And really, by the end of the weekend, us Titans fans were feeling quite happy and quite at peace.
You would have been. And after that spectacular game on Monday night, oh my God, that was a thriller. That was a brilliant game by both teams.
Wasn't it good? I mean, that was absolutely sensational. 10-all draw. I mean, and Golden Point, like, to get 90 minutes of football out of 2 of the best sides in the comp. Both of them have got to be top 4 sides at the moment, regardless of who you go for. And to see 90 minutes of high quality football like that was simply phenomenal. It was really a real treat.
It definitely was. Gareth Widdop's attempt from 55 metres out and just about made it there. God, if that had gone over, that would have been the field goal of all time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've only ever seen one field goal bigger than that, or sorry, I should say one drop kick bigger than that, because it missed the field goal, and it was a kick by Josh Dugan, and he's kicked it from, I think it was 55, 60 metres out. But the thing about it that was insane was it was still going up as it went past the posts, and was still going up on its way out of the stadium. It was just an absolute monster drop kick. But, of course, it missed, so it doesn't go down in the record books, and you've only got, the nostalgic idiots on the podcasts and on the internet streaming radio and things like that to talk about it.
Yeah, true. That's definitely one of the things. If you go to Loftus Verstveld in South Africa, on the plane where the Bulls play in the Super 15, Super Rugby, sorry, rugby fans, don't know if you're watching this or anything, but they have bomb field goals from like 60 metres out with ease because of high altitude, and they kick penalty goals from 70 metres out. There are insane goals being scored over there.
But I mean, that's very thin air, very low, very high altitude, and that sort of thing. So they have some environmental factors playing in, but
it's a special case.
It is, but no less impressive. I mean, even in high altitude and thin air, you still have to be accurate over that 70 metres to put it through the uprights. And that little black dot looks a whole lot smaller, from 70 metres away than it does from 25 or 30. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of those things. You have to be more and more accurate each time you hit it from further out, because the margin for error gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh, it does. It does. But, mate, rather than diverting on to Super Rugby and that sort of thing, how about we have a quick look at the team list? What do you reckon?
Yeah, we can if you want to.
Yeah, should we go rocket style like we did last week? I think that was fairly popular because we didn't spend an hour and a half discussing the ins and outs.
Yep, just don't make yourself over the breathe this time and have to have a break, please.
So, in other words, you want me to go straight through without taking a breath?
Yep. One word.
Die in a fire. That's all I have to say. Die in a fire.
Well, you're a guy speaking this anyway, so.
Alrighty. So we'll do it as quick as we can. Having a quick look at West Tigers here, we've got David Nofaluma on the wing, Joel Reddy in the centres, Tim Simona starting in the centres, Marika Korobidi, who made his comeback from injury last week, he's in the 5. Interesting note, Adam Blair moves into the starting prop position, jersey number 10. Bodine Thompson moves into the 12 jersey. Braithen Nass is back in 13. Suiaso Su, Jack Buchanan to the bench. Ava Suimanafagai, I know I've got that wrong, but he's in 16. Eddie Pettybourne rounds out the 17, but there's an 18th, 19th, and 20th man who are Matt Utai, Murdoch Masala, and Sean Spence, respectively. Moving on to the Cowboys, it looks pretty much as it lined up last week, with the exception that Robert Louis moves into the 7 as the announced team this week. He moved in at the last minute last week. We have Ray Thompson, Glenn Hall, Ashton Sims, Scott Bolton, Ricky Thorby, Jason Tuamalolo on the bench. This is the round of 7-man benches. I think that's what we should call it from now on, Banksy. Round 11 is the round of 7-man benches. You down for that?
I'm down for that.
Beautiful. All right, mate. And you slowing down and being slow on the reply there doesn't count on my time. I just want to point that out. Moving on to the Dogs, obviously Christian, the Worldwide Federation wrestler, Inu, is out. There's a hilarious meme going around about that one. I'll see if Banksy can put it on the podcast. It's great for a laugh. Tim Laffey in at number 4. Now, interesting, Chris Keating is playing in New South Wales Cup. He's back from injury, and Trent Hodkinson is keeping the 7 jersey. Thumbs up all round on that one. And we've got an extended bench of Dean Hallertau, Josh Jackson, James Graham, Dale Finucane, Martin Taupau, and Tim Brown. Broncos are as they were last week, with the exception that Justin Hodges is back in the 4. Jordan Kahu stays in the centres for Jack Reed, who has, I believe, a broken eye socket thanks to a Jamal Idris palm. Sorry, Jack, I did make a joke about you getting a palm to the face pre-game. Didn't really want you to get hurt. My bad. Ben Hunt in the 6, and he looks like he could be an interesting half to pick up if he keeps that 6 jersey. Scott Prince not named, but of course check team list before
back
the game.
Next week.
back next week's room, but just check team list. Jake Granville made his debut last week coming off the bench. He's named once again, as is Scott Anderson, David Heller, Jared Wallace, and 18th, 19th man, Dynamis Louis and Denon Kemp.
Denon Kemp.
Denon Kemp. So I'm not sure
He'll
who
be
he's there for.
He'll be the covering for Hodges.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
I believe he's a wing fullback.
He's a bit of a talent, old Kemp, isn't he? He came across from Union, is that correct?
I have no idea. I see him as 101k nuff each year. The last 4 years in Dream Team.
I might be thinking of somebody else. Anyway, moving on. Josh Dugan, back for the Dragons in the number 1, had a fantastic debut in Dream Team terms last week, scoring 50 plus, I believe. Just one
60.
thing, 60, there we go. On Josh Dugan and players coming back, usually their first game back is an absolute blinder. Their second game leaves a little bit to be desired, so don't stress if he does have a bit of a shocker this round. Hopefully not putting the mockers on him. Hopefully he's going to have a 100-point game. Actually, I don't really want a 100-point game because I'm probably happy somebody has Dugan, but you get the idea. On the bench for the Dragons, oh, by the way, Trent Merrin starting at 13, which we all love to see. Bronson Harrison, 11, 12, Ben Cray. And Michael Wayman comes into the starting lineup at 10. We've got Frizzle on the bench, Pryor, DeBell and Stockwell, and Cameron King named as 18th man. Moving across to the Panthers, hey, 17 men named. There's no extended bench. And why would you? The team that put the Warriors to the sword, then ground their faces into the mud and farted on their pillows, is exactly as it was last week. So no changes to the Panthers.
There is.
Oh,
You lie.
I lied, do I? What's
Anderson.
the change? Oh, Sam
Ryan
Anderson
Simpkinson.
out injured. Thank you, Banksy. I forgot about that one. Yeah, Sam Anderson out injured, which brings, is it Ryan Simpkins onto the bench?
That is correct.
Roosters v Storm. Anthony Minicello, the old bloke, Women in League's favourite son. He's going strong with the captaincy next to the big C next to his name. Mitchell Orbison is going gangbusters since we put the mockers on him. Thanks, Mitch. If you get a new contract, we'd like your commission. Again, we've got a normal 17-man lineup with Mortimer, Nuasala, Guerrera, and Tarsi on the bench for the Roosters. They're pretty much 1 to 12 as they were last week. Storm, we've got their starting 13 as it was starting last week, but not named. Obviously, Will Chambers dropped out for Morris Blair to come into the centres. Ryan Hoffman and Ryan Hinchcliffe. The key one there is Ryan Hinchcliffe back, moving Tohu Harris to the bench. And the extended bench for the Storm reads Riles, Harris, Moores, Setu, and Griffin. Sea Eagles versus Raiders now. Peter Hiku's tearing it up at fullback for the Sea Eagles. He's actually been quite competent and just a little bit impressive, taking into account that he is from Manly. Love you, all you Manly supporters out there. You know I just rib you for fun and because you support Manly. But that's beside the point. Normal bench
You love
again.
BJ, though.
Oh, I love BJ. Brenton BJ Lawrence. He's my stalker bromance. I love him. Absolutely love him, man. I know you were setting me up for a BJ joke there. Sucked in. Manly bench is Gower, Simmons, Bureau, Rose. Got to get up a little bit earlier than that to get one past me there, Banksy, and I've had a couple of beers too. Raiders. Terry Campese wearing the C next to him back in the 6. He's now strung, is it 3 games, 4 games together?
5 games, you.
5 games. Wow. Campo's looking the goods, and the Raiders, geez, aren't they a different side with him back in it?
Hey, just noticed that.
What's that?
They named Berrigan. Milford's out. Oh,
Yes.
sorry, not Milford. McCrone.
McKilrick.
McKilrick.
McKilrick has been dropped in favour of Sean Berrigan, and we
McCrone's
have an extended
injured.
bench. Now, is Joel Thompson back this week, or was he back last week? I think he's back this week. So Joel
think he's back
Thompson
this
comes
week too.
back, into the starting lineup. Sean Fensom is named. Apparently, he had a swollen eye or something like that. It was nothing serious. They just wouldn't let him back on. Not sure how he got it, but all reports are that he's right as rain and he'll pump out a good 70 or 80 minutes this week. Extended bench, we've got Milford, Picker, Tills, Vaughan, Williams, Kennedy and Foster. Williams named to cover for Josh McCrone, who's reportedly got a side strain, so he'll be given up until the last minute to prove fitness. Make sure you're checking team lists before the match. Of course, Jared Kennedy and Jake Foster, I suspect, are there as cover for Joel Thompson, Sean Fensom, and Josh Papali, all who are either coming back from injury, nursing niggles, or got poked in the eye last week. Moving on to one of our country games, Eels versus Titans. They're out at Mudgee Stadium. Couple of key changes that have happened in the Titans side, but we'll cover the Eels first. Api Parafarangi keeps his centre spot. The interesting thing is Ryan Morgan and Chase Blair are playing in the New South Wales Cup. So Api's obviously done a good enough job to convince Sticky he deserves to stick around. Luke Kelly in the 6, Manna in the 8, Rennie Matua in the 11, Matt Ryan in the 12, Penny Taripo in the 13. And that second row reads that way because Kalipi Tanganoa is out injured this week. Kesar Pritchard coming off the bench to spell with Matt Keating. Both the Paulos, Junior and Joseph Paulo, in 15 and 16. Mitch Allgood back from suspension at 17. And Braden Willem is named at 18th man.
I can shed some light on him.
Sorry, what was that?
I said I can shed some light on him just to put some more... He's a centre. There you go.
So Braden Willem it's actually William with an E on the end. I'm not sure if we pronounce that Willem.
Yeah, I think it's William.
Or just William. I do like the William.
I believe you also scored, probably is French, Braden William. Yeah. He scored 3 tries on the weekend for Whitmerfield.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Good one to look at. He could be covering for Loco because I've heard whispers around the joint that Loco is nursing a bit of a niggle. But of course,
yeah,
you know, with Sticky. Yeah, well, that's exactly right. It could be that he's there for Appy as well. Having a look at Titans now, a couple of injuries. Bo Falloon is out for 6 to 8 weeks. He had surgery yesterday on a broken fibula, I believe it is. I think fibula is one of the bones in your leg.
Yep.
But either way, he did break a bone in his leg, so he's had surgery on that. He's out there. So that brings Sam Irwin into the 17. Cash Cow Hooker. Banksy, you're getting your prayers. Everything you're asking for at the moment is happening, and I wish you would stop injuring Titans players to get it your way. Aside from that, man, it's great.
As long as they injure Idris, Caesar, Kelly, Irwin, and Ryan James, I'm fine.
All right, so I'm pretty happy being that I'm covered with most of those players. Mark Ione comes into the 17 as well, which is good. I believe he's up to his 2nd game this week.
That'll be his 2nd,
yeah. Luke Bailey starting. Luke Douglas off the bench in 18. Luke O'Dwyer is 18th man. He's there because of niggles. There's a knee injury of some sort to Ash Harrison. He's nursing a knee complaint. They're not 100% that he's going to play. So just keep an eye on Teamless. Greg Bird made mention of that on CFM yesterday, that Ash Harrow was nursing a bit of an injury. Now, moving on, the Warriors versus the Knights. Well, look, one side got thrashed by about 60 points on the weekend, and the other side handed out a belting to the Bulldogs. I don't think the Warriors can bounce back from a 60-point thrashing to put it on against the Knights. But the only thing they have going in their favour is this is Mount Smart Stadium. So the Knights haven't travelled particularly well. As Wayne Bennett says, I don't know which team gets off the bus. Interestingly, Dane Nelson comes back into the centres. He bumps out, who was
Tuamavave.
He bumps out Tuamavave, who's named at 17. The Warriors who bumps off Godinay. The Warriors have an incredibly extended bench. Their bench reads Mutalino, Lillyman, Taylor, Tuamavave, then Glenn Fisiahi in 18 because Kevin Locke is back at fullback, but obviously with a back injury we're always suspect as to whether or not he's ready, so keep an eye on Teamless. Luampe in 21, Peter Godinay in 22. Looking at the Knights now, we've got Dane Gagai at 3, Joey Leilua at 4 in the centres. Obviously, Boyd McManus and Uarte across the back 3. Kevin Nguama is named 18th man as coverage for Uarte, just in case he does have some issues there. Alex McKinnon, David Fayalongo, 12-13, Robbie Rakow, 11, Willie Mason starting in the 10. Kurt Gidley, captain, of course, playing in the hooker, which means Robertson Mullen in the halves. Costigan, Waddell, Cuthbertson, and Corbin Sims on the bench. That brings us to our last game of the round. We've got
Game
Sharks
of the round.
versus Rabbitohs. The completely and utterly unbiased Sharks supporter, Banksy, is telling us it's game of the round. Something to note here, guys, Michael Gordon has been named for the Sharks. He didn't complete the game last week with a bit of a leg injury. There was talk of a torn calf. He has an extended sort of recovery period here. He reckons he will play, that it wasn't as bad as first thought, but keep an eye on team lists. Looking at the Sharks side, Paul Gallen is back, Luke Lewis is back. However, Tyrone Peachey and Sam Tagatese are both named as coverage as 18th and 19th man for those two. Hines and Bikuyu, De Gois and Taupau are named on the bench.
Tupu.
Moving across the Rabbitohs, the destroyer of hopes and hearts and West Tigers defence lines, Greg Inglis, obviously, has pulled up perfectly from his 4-try effort, and he'll be coming in.
He didn't destroy them. He didn't destroy the line. He put himself in position to get balls from other players who destroyed the line. Hence why he got fickle tackle busts and line breaks. And hence he scored 4 tries and only got 76 points.
How many tries did he score?
4.
Oh, that's all. Okay. No worries then. Moving on. George Burgess is starting. Starting prop again, which is great to see. Sam Burgess in the 13. Now, against the Sharks, these boys might actually get some decent minutes. Sam Burgess pumped out a good 50-plus score from just 49 minutes. You know, ain't no thing for old Sammy Burgess, and he got a rest because the scoreline was that far out that there was no way anybody was coming back. Nathan Peets, Clark Lowe, Limmer, and Tyrrell named at 18th man. So obviously the first 4 there were the bench, and that is the team list done. Not my best record time, but I had plenty of interruptions from Banksy, who just can't help himself.
I know I can't.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Also, I thought you were going to have 17 new tongue twisters this week for the Warriors side. I'm guessing Elliot doesn't know how to use the Mick Potter approach of putting names into a blender and pulling them out.
No, I don't think he does. Apparently, I did see a headline, and I haven't had a chance to read the article, but I saw a headline saying that Elliot gives Warriors one more chance. Whether or not that's a case of you're going to get one more chance, win a game, or I quit, or win a game and I'm going to axe everybody, I don't know. But
it could be both.
Article later, a report back. It'll certainly be interesting. Now, there was something I noticed actually going through those team lists. There is a fair bit of value in the halves. Having a quick look, we've got Robert Louis priced at about 138,000. We've got Benji Marshall, who's dropped below 200,000. I think he was 192 at last check after this week.
91.
There you go, 191. Ben Hunt from the Broncos. Isaac John at the Panthers, who's only played 2 games, and I think he's got a break-even of about minus 50 this week.
Minus 43.
There we go. I knew it was something excessive. We've got Terry Campese, who's starting to come good. I guess you'd call him a bit of a mid-value halve, really. But he's stringing games together and starting to come good. What do you make of this, Banksy? Like there's plenty of options. There's plenty of cash-out options too.
Yeah, I've gone through a quick, looking through looking through the halves. And I'm seeing 5 very good potential cash-out options this week. And those are Anthony Milford, Isaac John, Robert Louis, Api Perefaranga, and Morris Blair. Mm-hmm. Those are your 5 main cash-out options. They all have a ranging break-even from minus 50 in Milford's case and 7 in Morris Blair's case. So you got to look at those guys there. But why are you bringing them into your team for? How long are they going to stay in your team for? That's going to decide which one you get. What are your intentions with them? Do you want buy coverage? Do you want a quick buck? What do you want with them? Do you want a half-centre switcher? What do you want? It all comes into that sort of stuff.
Fair enough too. So obviously when we have this sort of value lying around the place, particularly in the halves, there's going to be a few traps. Who is your pick for the traps?
The 2 with the biggest break-evens. Milford and John.
Milford and John.
Anthony Milford from the Raiders and Isaac John from the Panthers.
All right, we'll come back to Isaac John from the Panthers because look, there's plenty that can be said there about his game last week, and we can have a good giggle at the Warriors. mainly to make me feel better being a Titans supporter and all. But Milford, why is Milford a trap?
Milford's a trap because he's coming off the bench. It's like even with McCrone out, I thought he might have been starting. They've put Sam Williams there, picking up the scraps. So he got good minutes last week against the Sharks, and he hogged the ball a little bit too, which led to his 2 tries and his line breaks and his try tackle busts and whatnot. You look back to his first few games against the Roosters and the Storm. Yes, they were against the Roosters and the Storm, but he was coming off the bench and he scored 15 and 11. Against the Knights, he came back and he played a bit more minutes, I think he did, coming in to the team and being used a bit more. I think there was also different teams as well. But he's the one that's not going to consistently give you points. But if you want a quick buck, he's the guy to go for. He's going to make, if he hits a 36, he's going to make 55k this week alone.
Wow, I mean, that's some big money. Of course, he made 53k or something last week. So, I mean, that's a huge jump. But, look, he made 78 against the Sharks. So, I mean, he's obviously got some talent and some skill to rack up a 78 against the Sharks. The Sharks are no mugs. I know they've had their troubles this year. And I know you're smiling over there thinking, well, Ellaby's actually given the Sharks some credit. But why is he a trap? If this kid can score 78 against the Sharks, and keep in mind only 16 points of that are tries,
but
why is he a trap?
You've got to add in. You've got to look, and he's also got tackle. He's got line breaks on those tries. He's got excessive tackle busts as well, and run meters as well. So you take those away, he comes right back down into realism, sort of, so to speak, and his core stats, i.e. his tackles, his kick meters, aren't really there. Yeah, he does his attacking stuff. Yeah, he's sort of like an Albert Kelly sort of player. I don't see him as a guy that you're going to try and cash out to. Yeah, you're going to make a quick buck. You're going to make over 3 weeks, round 11, round 12, round 13. Given they don't pay round 12, if he hits 36 both rounds, you've made 100k. And that could be what you want. And a similar thing could be said about John, but we'll get on to John later. So I'm looking at this kid, I'm thinking this kid has talent, for sure. He will be the long-term half for the Raiders, hopefully, fingers crossed for them, if they don't lose him. But at the moment, I don't see him as a potential cash-out or a cash cow, considering he's already made 50k, and he's already priced at 173k.
Okay, so well, let's have a look at this. You know, the 15 and the 11 to start off with. Then he's hit a 39, and then he's pumped out the 78. Now, it could be fair to say that the 78 just corrects things and brings him back to the average of that middle round of that 39. Is that where you sort of see him averaging?
No, I see him, especially coming off the bench, I see him averaging somewhere between 20 and, 35 points, and that's because he's got that attacking flair, which will see him score a 30, a 40, a 50-point game. But because he's got an attacking flair, if he's shut down or doesn't get game time to use that attacking flair, he can score 20 or 15 points.
Okay, so he's going to be one of those up and down players. In other words, if you've got trades to burn, you want to make a quick 100k, you know, and you reckon he is, you know, particularly if Josh McCrone's out with side strain and that, he's going to get a few more minutes, then he's the guy to go to. Otherwise, he's a steer clear kind of option.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we have a look at the next steer clear option, according to Banksy. We've got Isaac John here. Now, this guy, look, he smashed out a 34 in his first game against the Melbourne Storm. Now, that was also a game the Panthers won. They've just flogged the Warriors. I mean, what was that, 62-6 or something like that? I mean,
62-6.
It was an absolute flogging. And he scored 3 tries in that. Why is he a trap?
Yep. For that exact reason, he scored 3 tries in that. He's not going to score 3 tries every week, so you take that 24 points straight off his score. He's going to score 42. And you take off his line break, which he probably got, take off a couple of tackle busts. So he's going to be a 35 to 40 point scorer. He's not as much of a trap as Milford, in my opinion, but he's still a trap.
Right.
And that's because of his bad buys as well. So if these projections are really crap on this thing. They're projecting 50 for him, which means you get a 60k price rise this week alone. I see him more realistically scoring 30 to 40 points. So that will probably be down at a 45, 50k price rise. And then you got to wait a week again to use him because he's not playing that big buy round, and he doesn't pay the 15 as well. So his buys are absolutely crap, and you're not. What you do get in him is probably security in his spot that he will stay there and he will keep playing. So.
I mean, he's definitely done more than what Tom Humble did in that same position. You know, he gels well with Walsh, and Walsh doesn't feel like he has to take the ball off him all the time. But not only that, I believe Walsh is headed overseas to English Super League at the end of the season anyway. So
that's another thing. But you got Soward coming in.
You've got Soward coming in for sure. But I mean, you know, Walsh is probably going, well, I've got my English contract, you know, all sewn up, so I can probably relax a little bit. I don't have to prove as much anymore. The interesting thing with Isaac John is he's only played 2 games, so you get the first price rise with him next week. He's 148,600. Panthers are on fire. Their last 2 games has been some of the best footy I've seen from them in the better part of the last 4 years.
I'm not saying that. Like, he's probably a more nicer cash cow than Milford. But I'm still thinking he's going to be a stay clear one. And also, look at this. When has a Panther cash cow this year come off? They haven't.
Law of averages, though, is that one eventually has to, and Matty Moylan's not doing a bad job. I think he's averaging sort of high 20s, and he's averaging about 26
there you
to 28.
Go. There's Moylan, so, yeah. He's a more safer bet. Like, if you're not looking for buy coverage with a Louis, John's maybe your man. You might keep him for the season. You might keep him until the end of the buys. Maybe you have a head-to-head team when you want to get rid of Miller. He's the guy to go buy.
Fair enough. And look, even if he does average that 30 points, he's still going to make you 100K. He won't make it as quick. Well, I mean, that 66 is definitely going to help with the initial cash rises. There's no two ways about it. And if he backs that up with a 40 or 50 this week, it's definitely going to help his cause and speed the price rise up. Yeah, he will slingshot there. But you are right that his buy rounds are definitely iffy. You know, they're the standard buy rounds where I think he misses 12 and 15. I think it is.
Yes, they do. Right? The two big first man buys.
Yeah, yep. So he misses 12 and 15, which obviously right now you don't want. But if you are still holding on to Miller, and interestingly, you and I were discussing this a little bit earlier, the vast majority of people who are trading out somebody to Isaac John, they're either trading out Miller, Hodkinson, who else was there, Banksy?
Miller's the most popular one so far with 736 trades. Drinkwater is another one, and Humble's the other one too, both with about 370 trades. Yep. Surinen's another one, Thurston's another one, Hodkinson, and Sando.
I mean, in all honesty, I like the Thurston trade out just because it frees up so much cash to go and spend elsewhere. But
you've lost so much cash already on Thurston.
Well, that's it. You have. But, you know, Miller's a good trade. It's a like-for-like trade. You know, Drinkwater, you're shelling out about 40K.
About 48K.
48K. There's definitely some good options to look at there. All right, so moving on from Isaac John, and let's have a look at Robert Louis.
Robert Louis. Now, Robert Louis, I see him more as the better option of these 5 cash cows, in my very humble opinion.
Yeah.
This is because he plays 12, so he might not make as much money straight up like Milford or John, but by the time round 13 comes along, he's made the same amount of cash, if not more, because he's played 2 games.
Assuming that they're reasonable rounds.
Yeah, assuming he scores reasonable points. Well, even if he scores 25 points the next 2 rounds, he still makes 55K, roughly.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I like about Louis is his first buy round is round 15, and then he doesn't have a buy until round 19. So you get, you know, a round 11, 12, 13, 14 from him, and then you get 16, 17, and 18, which means that round 12 and 18, when everybody else is having buys, Robert Louis is playing. And that gives you an option, particularly if he's going to score like he has been scoring, you know, like with the 50 that he pumped out last night. But the other thing is I expect Louis to be the dominant half when Thurston is away for Origin camp. And that could see some good points.
Matt, yeah, he definitely will be the dominant half. Matt, if he's back, Matt Morgan might be Michael Morgan. I knew it was some M combination. Or Ray Thompson comes off the bench to bring more in to be hooker with Koss Jason.
Yeah.
So, but he will definitely be one of the good players. Like, this kid hasn't played in over a year, basically, because of his indiscretions off the field. He's obviously fought his way back into contention at the heavily half-dominated Cowboys, where you've only got one spot open, considering you've got Thurston there. So he has proved himself well and truly. Looking at his scores, if you go look at his round 5 score, he got 15 points with a try on it. He went off injured 30 minutes into that game.
Yeah.
That's why he hasn't played since till 10 again. But remember that. He's a dynamic half that when he played with Benji, averaged roughly around 30, that was about 25 points he got, but that was under the old system with no tackle busts and whatnot in there, where he is quite prolific at because he does run the ball and take on the line.
Yeah.
And he's definitely going to get an increase from that. He could average, I think, at the back end of 2010 or 2011, he was averaging near, in the last 6 or 7 games, he was averaging about 40, 45 points under the new system.
He was, and the thing about that was I was actually a Louis doubter very much in the early stages of 2013, so this year. And it was Stats Williams who countered me in the argument, or not argument, debate that we were having, or discussion, however you want to phrase it. And he produced some stats that pretty much made me stop and go, righto, I no idea what I was thinking, but I'm quite clearly wrong on this. And the stats were good to the point where I not just came away from being anti-Louis because of his scores to going, he's a viable option if he actually gets game time. If he picks up the number 1 half spot next to Jonathan Thurston and is playing 80 minutes a game, he's more than a viable option. He's a very cheap option with some decent scores under his belt.
Yeah, he definitely is. Like, he's priced at 132,200 years at the moment. Even with Thurston there, he's going to score well because he's played with a dominant half Benji before in the past. He knows when Benji wanted the ball, he passed the ball to Benji. Yes, he's been accused of being a little bit of a ball hog in the past, but isn't that good for Dream Team points if he's going to run the ball?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. But not only that, I mean, he calls for it too. And
yeah.
If he's scoring points alongside Benji, he's doing something that no other half in, probably since Sonny Prince days has been able to do. Or since Robert Louis was there, we've all looked at Sirinen outside Benji, we've looked at Miller outside Benji, we've looked at
Humble,
Loltzen outside Benji, Humble, well, yeah, I mean, the last two, may they rest
in peace
as far as Dream Team goes. Anasta outside Benji. They've tried that many halves combinations that the Titans are sitting there going, and you said, we had halves, It's sort of, yeah, they've tried everything, and no one's been able to score as well as what Robert Louis scored outside of Benji Marshall.
No.
And Thurston is not as dominant as far as the halves pairing goes as what I believe Benji Marshall is. Benji Marshall, and full credit to him, has always been the absolute consummate ball hog. Now, if Robert Louis can score 30s and 40s outside Benji Marshall, there's no reason to say he can't do it outside Jonathan Thurston.
Also, you could look at getting Robert Louis in for the next 4 weeks. Yes, you might only play on that one round in round 12 when they play the Titans, but he'll make roughly around 100, about 60, 70, 80k, depending on what he scores. I'm thinking the higher end to 100k, basically. So that will leave him about 220, 230k. You can push from the Benji then and get this very similar buys.
The crazy thing is you can push him the way Benji's going. You can push him to Benji then and walk away with about 40 grand at the moment. And if Benji keeps going the way he is, you won't want to push him to Benji because you'll be walking away with 150k.
Yep.
The rate Benji's dropping, he could be the first player to drop below 100k this season. And I really
you can't.
You can't drop below. I was going to say, I really hope that he arrests this form slump and comes out and blasts it, because Benji Marshall on song is one of the most beautiful sights in rugby league.
I'm just saying he can't drop below 100 because Kinseo hasn't dropped below 100. and he had some shocking games where he should have dropped below 100. Cash out option, by the way, if you want him. Has decent buys.
Decent buys coming out of the buy period. Okay, so all right, let's have a look at what about Ben Hunt? Should we jump on Ben Hunt? I mean,
Oh, God damn you, screw you. I gave you a list. Hunt's not on the list. Don't rate him as
yes.
anything.
Oh, I love it. I love
If he's
it.
not on the list, he's not worth talking about.
Oh, but he's on the list in front of me. It's the Broncos team list, and there's Ben Hunt, number 6.
Well, then have a look at the Broncos injury list and see that Scott Prince is around 12 next to him.
Okay.
He's
So
back on the bench.
Scotty Prince will be around 12 and back on the bench. All right, so Ben Hunt's not worth
Or even dropped fully.
Even dropped
That's
fully.
that Granville picks up.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Jake Granville, poor bugger had a knock-on at first touch of the ball on debut and then suddenly turned it around and just flew out of the blocks to set up a try and played some really good football. Was a bit of a revelation, actually. I enjoyed watching him. I liked watching him as much as I enjoyed watching Sam Irwin when he debuted for the Titans earlier on this year. Just that same sort of energy and explosiveness out of dummy half. It was really
It's the
good.
afro.
Yeah, I think I am partial to an afro. But the other thing
He does have an afro, doesn't
he does. He's a white boy with an afro. It's a little bit amusing. But when I was at Suncorp and we were watching the Broncos-Titans game, the guy that I was sitting with is a long-time mate of mine. I've played a fair bit of indoor cricket with him. But he was in the Broncos junior program at some point in his rugby playing life. And Jake Granville was coming through the ranks below him. And he was telling me some things about Granville. And just the kid's ability is absolutely phenomenal. So definitely one to watch and one to get excited about. That he's getting a chance to debut.
I believe Granville is a hooker wing fullback.
Sounds about right.
Could be a wing fullback cash out too.
Yeah, he could be. He's a bit of an interesting one, eh? How many hooker wing fullbacks are there?
Well, the only one that's similar will be Berrigan, where he's wing a hooker centre.
Yeah. Isn't Appy Periferini's a centre half, isn't he?
Well, that's quite cool, that is. But Quinlan's that. You've got Morris Blair's also that as well.
Yeah, that's true. Now, Morris Blair's a bit of a cashy that could be worth picking up. How did he go on the weekend?
He went pretty good for try, which helped us score a little bit too. He scored 41.
Oh, nice. I know particularly over Origin period, Morris Blair does tend to score relatively well.
But it's generally because he normally plays in the halves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So he could potentially go play the halves in round 15 when Slater, Cronk, and Smith are out. Where you would think they might push Wilk to fullback, bring Finch into the half position for Cronk, and maybe push Blair to half. Or they might play Hampton at fullback or centre. They might play my old man, Kurt Mann.
I know you're praying to get some game time.
No, I'm not. Not anymore.
No, not anymore. You've moved on from that. All right.
I've moved on. I want Kahu to stay in the centres.
Interesting discussion to have very quickly. Michael Jennings, hot favourite to be picked in New South Wales centres. Does this mean that Sean Kenny-Dow is potentially going to see an improvement in his scoring over Origin?
How has Sean Kenny-Dow been scoring?
Pretty terrible from the complaints I see on Dream Team.
How has the skid mark been scoring? Oh, yep, he's a skid mark still.
Yeah. Colourful.
Yeah, everybody had high hopes for him, but he's just gone.
Yeah, he's been pretty average.
He's just not. He's involved, but he's doing things. He's not scoring tries. Things ain't going his way.
There's plenty of errors as well from the games that I've seen.
Yeah, there is. Got 13 errors so far this season.
Ooh.
With 9 penalties as well.
Yeah, definitely.
8 ineffective tackles, and a very worthy 23 missed tackles.
That's not actually too bad. That's 2.3 missed tackles a game, so
that's still pretty bad considering you're only doing 14 tackles a game.
Yeah,
you're missing 1 in 8.
It's looking a bit scary. Yeah. Okay, we'll just run at Sean Kenny-Dow 8 times, and eventually we'll get through.
Just run at them. I promise that. When do you play him? Oh, you don't play him to run 25 anyway.
Oh, right. By that time, Sean Kennedy may have retired just as a result of his terrible Dream Team scores.
Well, he's still going to pay for New Zealand, won't he? If Inu keeps getting suspended.
I saw a fantastic meme today, and it had Christian Inu. Someone had photoshopped Christian Inu's tackle on Greg Inglis, the one where he's dropping Inglis on his head, and had cut that out. And then they'd taken the tackle with the leg twist that he's now suspended for and cut that out perfectly. Both had been cut out perfectly. And then they put them into a WWE wrestling ring and had Inu in there. It was hilarious. If you haven't seen it, have a look on, I think it's NRL Humor or something like that. It's just genuinely amusing. You there, Banksy?
I'm just found this meme, so
You're looking
I'm back
for the
now.
meme. I love it. I love it.
Pile driver. He's going for the STF.
You've got it. You've got
No,
to
it'll be
use
the ankle lock, won't it? Or the, what you call it, the victory lock, or whatever Jack Slater calls it.
I can't remember what it was called. Used to be some crab, something like that. But
Boston crab, it'll be half crab because they're using one leg.
crab. Yep, that's it. But you've got to use that image in the that meme in the podcast, I think, mate, as a graphic.
I don't think WWE would like it too much.
Let them have a
They'll
laugh.
probably claim it.
Let them. Let them.
Nah. Then we get the money then. How will you buy your beers?
The same way I do every other day, mate. All the work I do on a street corner.
I thought it was done at the ship harbour.
No, mate, on the street corner I sell the big issue. The ship harbour is where I go for prostitution.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, God.
Sailors are far less picky, mate.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, being that we're just now having a chat, we've covered off our halves and the cash cows. I think we should avoid subjecting
Apart
the
from
people...
Happy Pierre Farangi.
Happy Peta Farangi. All right, quickly. Happy Peta Farangi. Do we love him? Do we want him? Or is he going to lose his job?
That's the question. Will he lose his job? Probably will. Ryan Morgan will probably come back into the team. You'd have to think he will. He's just got that X factor. Well, not that he isn't the X factor, but he's got that. He's just a hard-working centre that does the job very well. And I think he's a leading Eels try scorer this year, so I don't understand why he's not playing if he's fit.
Fair call. Fair call. Well, we'll keep an eye on that and obviously keep an eye on team lists. And on that note, Banksy, before this gets too X-rated and digs too much into my personal life, I think we should wrap up the show.
I think we should.
All right.
I want to make one comment, though.
Yep.
Josh Reynolds, yeah or no?
Mate, I'm off him. I've actually made the Reynolds to Louis trade to free up some cash, and it's helping my buy rounds because Louis, obviously, with the good buys and the other halves that I have, mean that I've still got, I think I've got 3 halves for just about every buy round at the moment. I'm jumping off him. I know he's going to repay my faith in jumping off him with a 70 or 80 this week, and he's welcome to it. Bringing Josh Reynolds in, as much as it seemed like a good idea at the time, it was getting away from my overall plan, and my overall plan was all about consistency this year and picking players who I could count on to pump out a certain score each and every week. And Reynolds, look, he can score anywhere between 20 and 100.
I mean 22, don't you?
Well, 22 and 100, but that's not the plan that I'm working to. So I got away from the plan a little bit with that. I'm going back to the plan with my trades this week. Obviously, cash cow in Louis. Little bit of a change in that I've gone Buchanan to James just to give me that front row, second row switcher. And obviously gain a little bit of cash next week on the back of James. I think he's in for some good scores. Next week, I'll go Suiaso Sue to Josh Maguire from the Broncos via Ryan James coming into the second row. And I'll probably go either Michael Chi Cam to Dane Gagai, or I'll go Darius Boyd to Dane Gagai. Not 100% on which way I'll go with that one. And being that we get the extra trade next week, I'll also look at going Robbie Rakow out. I think he's maxed. And I'll look at bringing in either a Gallen or a Parker or somebody like that. Parker's preferable if he's not picked for Origin, but he is also sitting at about 500k at this point.
501k.
Yep. The other one that I'm looking at is Trent Merrin. I'm bringing back in Trent Merrin. That's think I've worked out that's about a 5-trade turnaround on Merrin. If we have a look at my trade history,
He's been in and out, in and out.
he has been. Ladies and gentlemen, for those playing at home, do not do this. Round 2, Trent Merrin out for George Burgess. Round 4, Trent Merrin in for Aidan Tolman. Round 10, Trent Merrin out for Sam Burgess. So I'm not too sure how the Burgess brothers and Trent Merrin are going to get along in my squad, being that obviously there's plenty of friction there thanks to a little bit of acrimonious trading. But, you know, look, you live and you learn, and this is only my 3rd year at DT, so I'm certainly learning. And I'm in learning, I am burning trades. But, you know, that's the way that DT goes, I guess.
You're going to have to start a second team very shortly. You're running out of trades.
Mate, I'm prepared for that. I'm almost at a place where all 25 of my players are playing week in, week out. So once I do burn out my last trades and I've got those 25, I'll be quite happy just to mix and match a little bit.
Just don't bring in Ashley Harrison for your last trade.
Yeah, no, I don't plan on doing that.
You don't end up like Gareth.
I'm sure there's a story behind that, and I have seen him curse Harrow's name more than once in enters.
He told us that in his interview.
That's right, he did too. Oh, that was a great.
That's why I brought it up.
Absolutely. Alrighty, Banksy. Well, mate, hey, congratulations on your huge jump up the rankings too. You jumped a couple hundred places, didn't you?
150.
Yeah, well done, mate. That's awesome. Up to the 192nd mark. So well done, and onwards and upwards for you. I'm more than happy, mate, for you to keep climbing the rankings until you get to 2nd. Obviously, I'll be sitting at 1st, hopefully by round 26.
I would love that.
Mate, that'd be golden. Absolutely golden.
Oh, and then I'll report your second team. I will.
What second team? I don't have a second team. My son's got a team.
Please.
My other son has a team. My ex-wife has a team.
But Cat, does she have a team?
No, I don't own a cat. But if I did own a
Sure?
cat, it would have a team. My dream.
Yeah, you don't have to own a cat to have a cat team.
Mate, dream team is a way of life in this house. If you're going to be my pet, you're going to have a friggin' dream team.
Yep, of course you will.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on that, we're going to put a close to the show. Otherwise, Banksy and I are going to talk your ears off, dribble rubbish for the next God knows how long, and punish you for tuning in, which, of course, we don't want to do. We want to say thank you once again for joining in. We greatly appreciate it. If this is the first time you've listened to Banksy and I dribble on, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week, or at least chat to you next week. There's some big plans coming from Banksy and I, but look, we'll let you know about those as they come to fruition. If you're either a web designer or a graphic designer, we'd love you to have a chat to us and give us a hand with a couple of projects that we're working on. And obviously just private message me or Banksy, and we can let you in on the details there. And aside from that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have a wonderful week in this round 11 of Dream Team Land. It's not the NRL, it's Dream Team. And may your scores be higher than they've ever been, your players remain uninjured, and everybody gain in the rankings. How's that sound, Banks? Is that positive enough?
Not really. I want the 191 people in front of me to lose rankings, thanks.
Oh, look, that's negativity.
191 rankings is about nice enough.
But before we get into that, look, no negativity on the show. We're going to end on a positive note. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. You're going to be smiling because you get to make some trades and drop those players who failed you this week. And there is a sick leave that we take from that. And
I'm not trading this week, by the way.
No matter how bad your week was, spare a moment for the Warriors fan that you know. We all know one, and they're hurting this week. They need our love, people. They need our compassion. They need our kindness, because they got beaten 62-6 by the bloody Penrith Panthers.
They're not bloody. They are glorious, magnificent.